Hi, hello. So it is update day. So every Friday, I post a weekly reading wrap up, which is what I've been reading this week. If you have seen, I've already posted the review for the first book that I finished this week, which is Wistful Ascending. So Wistful Ascending is a superhero sci-fi space opera. So if you haven't watched the video, I'll give you a really quick summary. So the main character is called Rohan. He is a human-alien hybrid, specifically a kind of all-conquering, super powerful alien race, where his father is a member of this race, and then Rohan used to be a soldier in this alien race's army, even though he grew up on Earth. So he was a soldier in this alien race's army. He did some stuff that he's not 100% proud of, and then he was allowed to retire. And he retired to be the tow chief for a space station called Wistful, which is a sentient station kind of on the edges of space in a kind of free, unaligned zone. So the Empire doesn't really care about it too much, and it's not really strategically important, so that the station is allowed to stay. So Rohan's job as tow chief is essentially to fly out, get these massive spaceships and push them in to the Wistful, because they can't use their engines, because if anything goes wrong with the engines, obviously they just fly straight through the station. So it's a really cool, fun concept. It's kind of like seeing like a superhero like Superman or something take a blue collar job working on like Deep Space Nine. It's a really cool idea. The aliens are really alien, which is super fun. So like they have, they very different looking. So like fully green skin, antennae, scales, multiple eyes. Some of them have empathic abilities and stuff like that as well. So it's pretty cool all around. The space station also orbits a planet covered in giant murderous kaiju. So like Godzilla monsters, basically. And that's really awesome. And you get to see that planet kind of come into play a couple of times through the book. So I gave it a 4 stars. The only reason I didn't give it a 5, and I really enjoyed it. I was kind of missing that 5-star feeling, and I think that the reason I was missing the 5-star feeling was purely because this first book felt almost like a lot of shorter stories that were there to kind of build out the world and the characters, and that kind of came together, but they didn't. It didn't feel like it coalesced into kind of like a beginning, middle, and end story. So I'm expecting that to happen in future books, because this one felt like it was spending a lot of time to introduce characters, concepts, and all that sort of jazz. All the action is awesome. The dialogue's great. I laughed out loud at it multiple times. And I really, really like the characters. So I can't wait to read the next one. Exactly the same as with Way of Adan, I honestly had to force myself to go on to a new author, because this month I'm doing Self-Pub September, which is where I read only self-pub fiction. And I had decided and made a point that I would only read only read one novel, even not the first novel. I'd only read one novel by each author. So I've read The Way of Adan, I've read Wistful Ascending, and now let's talk about what I'm currently reading, which is Never Die by Rob J. Hayes. So this is completely different again from the other 2 books. So this is kind of a wuxia-inspired ancient China sort of. Well, I think it's a fantasy world, like a second world fantasy. But it's kind of inspired by ancient Asia and wuxia stories and movies, and it's basically kind of it's part of Rob J. Hayes' Mortal Techniques series. The cool thing about Mortal Techniques is that all 3 books are standalone. Well, there's also a short story as well, but all 3 books are standalone, so you can read them in any order you like, whichever story kind of appeals the most to you. Never Die is about these kind of super cool warrior characters. So there we've got the Emerald Wind and the Whispering Blade are the two that I've met so far, and they are both kind of legendary warriors, and they die in battle and are brought back to life by a small boy called Ein, who has the power to bring heroes back to life in order to fulfill a quest that he's been given, basically. It's really, really cool and interesting so far. There's lots of wrinkles to them being resurrected, so they're not just back. There's also some negatives to being brought back from the dead. And the world that Rob J. Hayes has built is really, really cool. So I'm about a third of the way through that one. Had a really busy work week, so I haven't really had much time to read. Unfortunately, lots of driving around the southwest of England to go to different events and stuff. But I am really enjoying Never Die. I'm making sure to at least read 2 or 3 chapters a day, and absolutely loving it so far. I really like that we're getting the perspective from all of the characters, well from both of the warriors. I also really enjoyed the chapter where Ein relates the story of the Century Blade, who's another character that kind of is in the beginning of the novel. And I noticed that the short story that Rob J. Hayes has put in the Mortal Techniques universe is about the Century Blade, and how cool he is. So that's that's something that's kind of got me looking like, oh, maybe I can read that short story at some point in the next few months. So speaking of, so that was what I've read, which is Wistful Ascending and Never Die. And what I've got up next to read, I've decided to go for the Threadlight series by Zach Argyle. Now I've got the first book. I have it on my Kindle here. Let me just quickly. I can't remember the name of it now. This is fantastic YouTube. Okay, so the first one is called Voice of War, and that's Voice of War by Zach Argyle is my next book. I don't yet have a book to read after that one, although I've had a lot of fun with YouTuber book Way of Dan, so I was thinking about reading Harbinger of Justice by Andrew Watson, another favourite YouTuber of mine. And I've not really seen many reviews for that one on the channels that I follow, so I was thinking that might be a good thing for me to read, just because the more reviews for books the better, honestly. So little bit about what's gone up on the channel this week. So on this week we have had the Wistful Ascending review. Then I did a Dresden Files ranked video where I tier list ranked every single Dresden Files video. So that was really fun to do. It was great to get back into the mindset and the world of the Dresden Files. I love Dresden and the story. And I had realised when I was ranking the books that I hadn't read the novella The Law, which is set after Battleground. So possibly next month, because next month is I've noticed on YouTube Occult Detective October. So I was already planning on reading Stephen King's crime series, the starts with Mr. Mercedes and ends with his latest release Holly next month. So I kind of thought, oh, maybe I'll slip in that is Occult Detective October, and I'll read The Law as well. So maybe next month. So after that, I then published my reviews for the first 2 books and the first novella in the Bound and the Broken series. I've actually already batch recorded all the reviews for these, because I wanted to make sure that kind of my thoughts and feelings on all the books were quite fresh. So they're all recorded, and I'm just kind of slowly releasing them As I've said previously, I do try to get out a video every single weekday at 5 p.m. UK time, so that's Monday through Friday. And Friday will always be the wrap up. Tuesday will always be a I like to keep Tuesdays as kind of a non-review video. So those are videos that might be like my top 10 series I want to read, or an update on all the series that I've read, or maybe a tag video that's like the best books I've read in 2023. So yeah, Tuesdays are always going to be like a concept video, and then the rest of the week is kind of open. So Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But at the moment, I still have quite a lot of books that I've read in the last few months that I want to review. I did have a thought that I would probably try and go back to the beginning of 2023 and review all the books that I've read this year, because I remember most of them quite well. And I'm also thinking that I should do a should you read for the Jade City Greenbone Saga, because I love that series and I think it would be nice to be able to talk about it. And maybe I don't need to do full reviews for those, because I did read the first couple last year. But I was thinking also maybe I could frame should you reads as was it worth it? Because I often see people kind of saying, oh, like, I think you should read XYZ, but maybe if you're framing it as was it worth it, then I can just tell you, for me, that it was worth it and why it was worth it, if that makes sense. So that's everything that has gone on the channel this week. As I said, next week I do have The Exile, which I decided to do a separate review for, unlike The Fall, because it's kind of its own thing a bit more, because The Fall was originally just going to be the prologue for Of Blood and Fire, so they kind of blend together quite well, whereas The Exile I feel like is more of its own thing. And so I've got the Exile review, I've got the Of War and Ruin review. By the time I get to those two, I will have finished Never Die, because I'd be shocked if I don't finish it in the next day or two, because it's quite a fun, quick read. So hopefully next week I'll have for you Never Die, Two Bound and the Broken books for review, and then we'll think of something fun for the concept video on Tuesday, and then on Friday it'll be the weekly wrap up as always. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more of my reviews and more of my content, that will be everything that I've talked about that I've currently posted will be in the description box below. Please leave a comment of what you've been reading this week, or if you've read any of the books that I've read and you like them. And also make sure that you drop a subscription so that you can see when I upload these upcoming videos. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.